Importantly, as we come back on New Perspectives, reminding you that we have as our guest Ausbert, the leader of the National Development Movement. Ausbert, very important as you ask persons to choose you over the other parties, primarily the two main ones, the UWP and the SLP, to your own assessment on why, in fact, that they shouldn't be chosen. Your quick assessment of the UWP now in this present context, this present term, as they go through, they very confident that the much vaunted Taiwanese projects have reached the ordinary man, that they have staved off many a crisis up till now, and so they're the better choice going forward with their team of men and women. What say you, in a nutshell, about the UWP, why they shouldn't be the choice?
The United Workers' Party now has shown over the last 3.5 years that it does not have the capacity to implement the development program that this country requires. We do not elect politicians at the national level to focus on community projects. The Taiwanese, as I've indicated, have been very generous to St. Lucia. They must be commended for the grant assistance that they give us. And we can't knock them because this administration has shown that its vision only resides at the constituency level. We elect national governments to address national issues. It is not good enough to say that we are surviving and we've staved off crises. That's not what it is all about. Even when persons claim that 4.4% growth has been achieved in the United Workers' Party administration, you have to go to the streets and you have to ask people, do they feel that growth? And everybody will tell you no. Everybody's scrambling to survive, to put food on the table. The number of, bankruptcies and insolvencies and so on, is on the increase. Businesses under pressure. Long-established businesses are laying off long-time and long-term employees. So obviously something is wrong. The economy is not providing the necessary growth to keep all of these persons, employed and otherwise. The United Workers' Party is also presiding over, probably one of the highest rates of unemployment in the history of St. Lucia. They have lost jobs, they haven't created jobs. And therefore, I believe that if their focus is on the community level and they want to keep the focus of the country at that level, I think the people of St. Lucia must say, hey, that's not why we elected you. We appreciate all of these things at the community level. But ultimately, it has to be about economic growth, rapid economic growth, in other words, a rate of economic growth that allows there to be genuine improvement in the standard of living, and also it has to be principally about jobs. Can they create jobs? They have not shown they can create jobs. The other thing is that 4 years ago, a national vision plan for the development of St. Lucia was established. Nothing.
You had a hand in that?
Yes. Yeah. It was developed, under the portfolio of my ministry, and nothing has happened with that. So we cannot continue St. Lucia's development path based on a strategy of focusing on small-scale community projects that have no long-term economic benefits. Because after persons walk to their homes on nicely paved footpaths and everything else, they have to figure out how they're going to pay their electricity bill, how are they going to put food on the table, how are they going to pay their water bill. And therefore, the issue now at this time, the paramount issue in everybody's minds, is economic growth and jobs. The creation of wealth in the economy. And I have not heard the United Workers' Party in this campaign enunciate a vision for the development of this country. In other words, where are we going? How are we going to get there? Especially in a time when the challenges in the global economic environment are becoming even more severe. So I don't think the United Workers' Party has the answers. They haven't shown they have the performance, the persons who can perform and deliver what is necessary, and therefore I don't think that they are the choice that the persons, the electors of St. Lucia want to make at this time. Yeah. If they want to be elected as mayors of town councils and community councils to do all these community projects, that's fair enough.
Well, one would say quickly that you were once, not so long ago, a strong ally of Stephenson King as a leader. You perhaps would say that you felt in partnership with him that you could make it work. Now that you're out, you're saying they without the capacity. Stephenson King as a leader himself, who you once found as a suitable ally recently, what do you think of him as a leader and stewardship?
The question of my relationship with Stevenson King is a personal one. I have known Steve for many years, and we've always had a very cordial relationship. As a person, I like Steve a lot, and there's nothing that has happened that has changed that. However, we aren't talking about a personal liking or personal friendship.
No, but professionally, for all intents and purposes, you appeared to be confident it could work in partnership with you 2 years ago.
Yes, because at that time I had responsibility for the development portfolio of the country, and I knew what was possible, and I knew the capability that the administration had if there was that strong focus on development which came out of that Ministry of Economic Affairs, Economic Planning, etc. Okay, you will note that throughout the years in my association with John Compton and latterly Stevenson King, it was always the Ministry of Planning and Development and so on that drove the development of this country. And when I had control over that particular portfolio, I was confident that we could implement the National Vision Plan and so on. Since I have left, it isn't for me to say. It is obvious and apparent that nothing has happened. There has been no movement along the path of development. Although the United Workers' Party continues to talk about the National Vision Plan, the National Development Plan, etc., nothing has happened, which shows that they do not have the capacity to perform. And it is not enough to say that the global circumstances militate against the achievement of the objectives of that plan.
You mentioned jobs, and jobs being the key. That would certainly be music to the ears of Dr. Kenny Anthony, who is your other rival and in fact a competitor in this present context. Kenny Anthony and the Labour boys, who were in power for the better part of 10 years, you have not been glowing in praise of them. Where did they fall short? Where did they disappoint, in your opinion, first of all, before we get to Kenny Anthony's present plan in the 10-year tenure?
I really hold the Labour Party responsible for two developments in St. Lucia which I consider really unfortunate. The first one is affirmative action, because I believe when the Labour Party introduced a policy of affirmative action, a stated policy, a declared policy of affirmative action, which in effect said that they would favor supporters of the St. Lucia Labour Party over everybody else. I thought that was the wrong thing to do, because it created a divide immediately in St. Lucian society, a divide which has never healed.
Was that ultimately sanctioned officially by the party?
Whether or not it was ultimately sanctioned officially, it was practiced and it was put in practice. The perception of the people of St. Lucia was that this is what was practiced, and we all know that this is what was practiced. So whether it had the official sanction or otherwise, whether it was called affirmative action or whether it was placed into action, by the ministries and departments, under the control of the Labour Party government. I mean, we all know this is what happened. And I thought that introduced a certain level of ugliness into St. Lucia's social environment, social milieu, an ugliness which has continued under this present administration. And I want to point out that when this administration came into office in 2006 under the leadership of Sir John Compton, Sir John Compton made it clear to his cabinet that under his stewardship there would be no continuation of this policy. Supporters of the United Workers' Party had no superior position to anybody else. All St. Lucians were equal, and that persons would be entitled to any benefits, simply because they were citizens of St. Lucia. There would be no preferential treatment of anybody based on political persuasion. I am not quite sure that approach has continued since in the post-John Compton era.
Let's stick to your resume and analysis of the SLP tenure. You mentioned
I said two things. The second thing was the politicization of this public service. In a developing country in particular, the role of the public service or the bureaucracy is paramount. Any politician can come and say he will do anything at all or promise anything to the people. But if you do not have a public service that can deliver, then ultimately that politician's promises will not be kept. Now, when the Labour Party came in to office, they took the deliberate approach of bringing in their own persons into the public service at senior levels. That alienated career public servants, and eventually it led to a breakdown of the public service from the standpoint of performance and so on. Promotions and advancement within the public service became the privilege of politicians, and that alienated the entire public service, the mass of the public service. And I believe that that is one of the things that St. Lucia has to repair, immediately, if we are to progress. We cannot allow the public service to be politicized. Promotion and advancement must be based on merit, and that is the only thing we have to do. If we're going to change the system and go to a US system where you parachute all your people into the top, the upper ranks of the public service, let's change our constitution and do that. But as long as we have a Westminster-style model, we have to preserve the independence of the public service.
There's a particular constituency now that's clamoring for a government of national unity approach, almost getting the best talents. Persons are fed up with the tribalism and so on, and we are the poorer for it, according to their argument. Honestly, Ausbert Dovey, could you work with Kenny Anthony? You see some talent in there in Kenny Anthony?
Could I work with Kenny Anthony?
Yeah, in the interest of national government?
In the interest of national government, if that is to be the way forward, then I'm sure everybody would have to, come to some kind of accommodation if that is the way forward.
I'm asking that to ask you, do you see some qualities in Kenny Anthony for leadership of the country, despite his past feelings?
Kenny Anthony is the leader of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
I question, I have no confidence in Kenny Anthony's vision. I'm a big vision person. I'm a very big vision person. I want to know, what vision you have for the development of this country. And I haven't heard that vision enunciated by Kenny Anthony. The reason that...
He's now spoken to jobs. You've heard it recently with the jobs and concessions to the... He detailed it. You would have gotten a look at that. How excited are you by his more recent pronouncement, in all fairness to it?
I saw the statements. It is well-meaning. It is well-meaning. But it is tinkering with, what exists. For example, a step 2, a better step, a few things here and there. If that is the vision that the Labour Party has of what is necessary in St. Lucia at this point in time, then, I believe they still lack an understanding of the potential of this country and how that potential can be realized. I think it, as I say, it's well-meaning, it is well-intentioned, but, it is totally off base in terms of what I think needs to be done with this country's development and development program at this point.
Including the specific provision of the 100 million injection to get jobs immediately?
Yes. I saw the projection for $100 million, injection to the economy to create jobs and so on. But I also think I saw that while this injection is going, is made, they'll attempt to find permanent jobs and so on.
Yeah.
I believe that it's possible to set up mechanisms to utilize that same money to create permanent jobs instead of making them step-like jobs. Okay, jobs. In other words, which the money is dissipated, goes to the economy and everything else, but leaves no lasting impact on the development of the individuals concerned. And so I believe that $100 million could be spent. If that $100 million were available, it could be spent in a much better way that would leave persons equipped. And this could be done very quickly with skills, with employable skills, and also impact the community in much more positive ways than the STEP program has. I'm not knocking it. I believe that you may have to put in place short-term measures, but it is how you design these measures and how you structure them so that they leave a much more long-lasting impact and benefit for the economy as a whole. Yeah.
We will come back for our final segment where you will be telling us of your specific plans, what you have to offer going forward for Dennery North and indeed the country generally. You're watching New Perspectives.